So here's something super interesting. So Joe Rogan, of course, is I guess you call it the host or the owner of the Joe Rogan podcast. The Joe Rogan Experience is what it's called. But what we're going to be looking at here is Joe Rogan is going to mention the intellectual dark web, but most importantly, he's going to talk about his what you could call cred or street cred of liberalism. And Ben Shapiro is going to very awkwardly laugh at it. Ooh, it was kind of painful. Check it out.
A certain amount of silliness in calling it the intellectual dark web. I mean, you and I are essentially in some sort of a super group. What
It's
are we
cool.
in?
We're super friends.
We're
Exactly.
Yeah, and what I felt was fascinating was that a lot of people were trying to label us as like deplorable conservatives. And like when they were saying this is a group of renegade conservatives. Well, I'm pretty liberal, like pretty liberal across the board. If you want to talk to me about gay marriage, you want to talk to me about gay rights, women's rights, like
drugs.
You go down the line. Universal health care, universal basic income. I mean, I'm pretty liberal. Like but it doesn't fit the narrative. I look like a Trump supporter, right? So like,
Is it white and buff or what?
Yeah, I'm a white bald guy. It works out too much.
So this is something interesting because lefties and progressives alike, I see them often criticizing Joe Rogan. I used to criticize him a lot too, and I'll criticize him from time and time. When I think it's, he's deserving of criticism. And I've said in the past that he sort of says whatever is in agreement with the person that is in front of him at the time. But I sort of came to the realization that being, in that position of having your own podcast and having people on, if you want to have any sort of, as equal as possible, or at least the opportunity of being able to have the same amount of lefties as you do right wingers, right? You can't be a dick to one side and the other, so you sort of have to do that. You see what I'm saying? You sort of have to do that. So I sort of reconcile that. But he does make some interesting points. I mean, he says he's for the UBI. I've seen him advocate for it and explain his support for the UBI, the Universal Basic Income. So I actually don't doubt that. I actually don't doubt that. He also, he says he's pro-universal healthcare, which is obviously a big thing. That is a huge thing. But I also did a video recently about where Joe Rogan explains how the child separation policy that has been put in place by the Trump administration, in which they have a zero tolerance policy now, where basically prior to this, and again, I want to repeat, a lot of those people are just legally trying to seek asylum, which is legal. Seeking asylum is legal, is what they're trying to do. But what those people, whether, you're illegally crossing the border, when you are, it's considered a misdemeanor, and you're not separated from your kids are not separated from their family because it's not a serious crime. It's just a misdemeanor. And so Joe Rogan came out against that. And Joe Rogan has had his criticisms of Trump and Hillary alike, which is, good criticisms of Hillary, I would say. Now, there are areas where I disagree with him. He does have, a lot of right-wingers on, but I don't know if that makes him not left. I don't know. But the point here being, you heard Joe Rogan's pitch explain, and his explanation as to how he's left-wing. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on this. Let me know down below in the comment section. Do you think that would you consider him a lefty, a progressive, a liberal? Because honestly, I sort of do. I at least maybe somewhat liberal / lefty. I think I do. I think I do.